house guests, welcome to today's Big Brother 18 updates and spoilers. Our house guest of the day is Abby Roberts. Yay! Thank you so much for your support. I don't know if you guys can see, but Homer and Lucy are both here and they say hey. And if you guys want to be house guest of the day, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. Alright, so they had nominations yesterday and Paul nominated Pauly and Bridget, and here's what's going on. So, Paul's target this week is Bridget. Pauly volunteered to go up as a pawn, but he is hell-bent on Day being the replacement this week and going home. So, like, Pauly's acting like this is his HOH. He doesn't even care what Paul wants. PP. Alright, so Bridget and Paul were chatting in the HOH room after the ceremony, and he tells her, "You're not the target this week." At least in his mind. But he's just like, if I wanted you to go home, I'll just tell you. He does want her to go home. But Paul is telling her Day is super shady and a lot of people want her out, so like, you're gonna be fine. He advises her, just lay low, trust me, and it'll all be okay. So then she's like, well, if I'm in the power of veto, who should I pick to play? Obviously, she's in the power veto. Oh my god, guys, I've been up for like 24 hours. So she's like, who should I pick if I get house guest choice? And he's like, you should pick Natalie, Corey, or Victor. And she's like, well, it'd be kind of weird if I picked one of the guys and then they used it, right? Like, that would be weird. So he's like, yeah, just pick Natalie. Okay, so then Bridget's like, I'm going to fight for the veto, but she's feeling optimistic. So she's like, I'm just going to go pretend to be sad so that, you know, people aren't weirded out. And she's being pretty convincing, because I've heard multiple people be like, oh my god, I feel so bad for Bridget. Like, she's walking around all sad, she's wearing Frank's t-shirt. It's upsetting. So anyway, Bridget goes to the storage room alone. She starts pumping herself up for the veto. She's like, I can win this, I can do it, I gotta do this. And then she's like, I'm gonna bake some peanut butter cookies for Paul. I guess that wouldn't hurt. Alright, so the Paris room was seeing a lot of action last night. Almost everybody was hanging out in there at some point. They're all just goofing around, telling gross stories. I swear, like, we need a tally for how many times they use either bone or boning in this. Like, it's ridiculous. And, yeah. But you can blame Paul for that. So, anyway... We also learned that Corey is getting super ticked off with Victor. Like, it was all funny at first, how he was kind of, like, weaseling his way into the Nicori showmance, but now he's getting a little pissed because Victor is all over Nicole, and the other day he even told Nicole that he had, like, a freaking wet dream with Nicole in it, and, like, some other girl, like, oh. But Corey does not like that. He's getting pissed. So... Pauly and Corey were chatting, and I just have a question for you guys. Leave it in the comments. Does anybody else feel like Pauly and Corey are seriously drifting apart? Because if you think about it, Corey is like super close to Nicole now, and Pauly and Paul are freaking attached at the beard. So, like, I feel like Pauly and Corey, those doggies are not as close as they used to be. But Pauly and Corey, okay, so... Pauly is really pushing that Day should be the replacement nominee this week, and he wants her to go home. Obviously, we've been seeing that all week so far. But he's like, yeah, I think the girls are working together. So this Girls Alliance thing comes up again, and Corey's like, yeah, but if they're all working together, then why does Nicole want Day out and Day wants Nicole out? And Pauly's like, well, I think they're both pushing for each other to go up on the block because they both have a ton of information about each other. And they're afraid that it's going to come out, so they're trying to, like, get rid of each other. So then Pauly brings up some concerns about Zakiya. He feels like she may be playing both sides, too. I'm not entirely sure which sides he's referring to. I'm assuming he means with him or with the girls. I think those are the two sides, because I feel like everybody's on Pauly's side. But anyway, Pauly is kind of curious what would happen if he stayed up on the block. He's kind of curious what the girls would do. Would they vote for him to go or what? Maybe you should just test it out and see what happens. But then Corey is saying, you know, I feel really bad for Bridget this week. She's all alone. See, the Bridget thing is working, and Pauly's like, yeah, it sucks for her, but if the nominations stay the same, she's gonna have to go. Because what are you gonna do? Vote me out? That's ridiculous. Alright, so then Michelle and Pauly were talking about Day in the safari room. And this was kind of weird because I was under the impression that Michelle and Day were very close. Like, super close. But she was kind of like trash-talking Day with Pauly. So Pauly's explaining again why he wants Day to go this week. And he's saying, like, Day spreads all this info around and she's trying to split people up. She was trying to get Nicole up on the block, and that's sketchy. So Michelle is just like, you know what, Pauly, out of everyone in this house, I trust your judgment the most. So if that's what you want to do, we're going to do it. Ah, yes, continue to feed that ego. So Pauly was like, yeah, we'll get rid of Day this week, and then we can always go for Bridget or Natalie next week. And we know who Michelle wants to go out of those two. Both. But, you know, she really wants Bridget to go. So Corey comes in, and Michelle's just like, yeah, Day's gotta go. She keeps trying to keep me from hanging out with Nicole, and that's not cool. And she doesn't like how Day listens in on conversations. She thinks it's creepy. So then Michelle and Nicole were chatting in the safari room, and again they were discussing, should it be Bridget or Day leaving this week? So Nicole's like, I'd be cool either way, but I'd be really cool with Day leaving this week. So then she's like, is that what people want? Like, what are people saying? And Michelle's like, well, that's what Pauly was just telling me. He wants Day out for sure. For show. But Michelle is worried that Day is going to go and tell Natalie what they say about her, because, you know, they don't always say the nicest things, and they see that Day is getting closer to Natalie. So Michelle is freaking out about that, and Nicole's like, yeah, it's just one more reason to get rid of Day. Am I right? Yeah, so then Michelle is saying, yes, that makes sense, but she also doesn't want Bridget hanging around for too long. She doesn't want her to slip through the cracks. So Nicole's like, well, we'll get rid of Day this week, and we can go for Bridget next week. So, yeah, just, you know, I feel like Nicole and Pauly are talking a lot. Because they've got some very similar explanations and stuff here. But then, oh my god, the rest of the night was like a series of hilarious and sometimes unfortunate events. So, the house kids were feeling very pranksy last night. I mean, there were a lot of pranks going on, but most importantly, Paul put some shaving cream in Michelle's tea, and she drank it, and then she starts screaming. She's like, "Bleh, Paul, bleh." And then she runs up behind him and hits him on the back with an apple, and it leaves like this huge mark, like on his lower side back. Huge mark. And Michelle's just like, oh my god, like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was gonna, like, bruise like that. I hope you're not in pain. And she's like freaking out. Then she gets called to the diary room, and she's really freaking out that she's gonna be in trouble with Big Brother. So she's just like, oh my god. So then they're all like, Mish, like, don't worry about it, it's fine. So then she comes out of the diary room straight up sobbing again, like, I'm so sorry, and I don't want to get in trouble, and I didn't mean to hurt you. And they're all just like, oh my god, stop. Alright, moving on, even though that's hilarious. Victor was doing like this food challenge. He was trying to see if he could eat an entire pizza by himself, because as we've heard all season, Victor eats all the food, and this is not helping his cause. But anyway, they were all sitting around watching him attempt this. They were going to try and time him to see how quickly he could do it. But he ended up not being able to finish it. He was sitting there with a pile of crusts. Dude, don't waste the crusts. The crusts are amazing. But anyway, he couldn't do it. Okay, moving on, because it's time for some freaking mother effing Zolly drama. You know you love it. Alright, so this all really kicked off when Pauly let Zakiya know he's sleeping in the HOH with Paul. And she's going to be sleeping downstairs with Michelle. Alright, so we're going to come back to that. But first, We've got some PP time in the HOH. They have a little strategy chat. You know, they feel like they're on top of the world, and it's super annoying. So Pauly is like, yeah, Bridget, if you think about it, she's really just another number for the guys, so that's great. And Paul's like, yeah, but I still think it's the best move to get Bridget out this week. But then he's saying, if you really think that we should go for Day, I trust you. Why is everyone just, like, blindly following Pauly? It's insane. So then Pauly's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, if I win HOH next week, I'll put up Bridget and Natalie, and it's whatever. So he's really trying to sell that. But then a little while later, Pauly's saying, if I win HOH, I'm putting up Bridget and Zakiya, because he's tired of Zakiya messing up his social game. She's making people feel uncomfortable. And he said she's acting like a girl and not a woman. Wow. And he doesn't deal with little girls. So then Paul is telling Pauly, look, man, you've got however many days left in this house with Zakiya, and then you're like, you never have to see her again. So just fake it with her until it's time for her to go. Wow. So then on another note, they were discussing using Victor to take out one of the guys so that they wouldn't have to do it. Because eventually some of those guys are going to have to go. It can't be all fun and games, just the guys blowing off steam together. You know, these things have to happen. Alright, meanwhile, so we got PP with their strategy talk. Meanwhile, Zakiya is freaking crying to Michelle in the safari room. She's like, Pauly's being an asshole to me. Like, what the F did I do to him? Why is he acting this way? So then Michelle's like, oh, don't worry, Zakiya. You've got me and Nicole. Great. I thought you were trying to make her feel better. So then Michelle's telling her, you know who else had fights in this house? Brendan and Rachel. Zakiya and Pauly are not Brendan and Rachel. Just stop. Alright, so then Zakiya's saying that she doesn't want to look stupid, and Pauly wouldn't be treating her like this if she was good at competitions. That's so sad. Maybe you should try playing the game. Just a suggestion. But anyway, a little while later, Zakiya goes up to the HOH room to get Pauly. He comes down to the safari room, and they're just like, what's going on? What's going on with you? What's up? So Pauly's like, I don't like it when you make these freaking petty comments that make everybody feel awkward, and you, like, freak out when other girls, like, look at me. So apparently she made some kind of comment earlier in the day being like, oh, why don't you get Natalie to do your nails? Which is kind of like, ugh, because a few days ago she was like freaking out when Natalie was doing his nails. So he was like, I didn't like that. And she's like, you're assuming that I was being petty, but I was being serious. Were you? But anyway, he was also saying that he doesn't like it when she makes comments about professional athletes, because he was a professional athlete, and it's just not cool. So then they're just going on and on. It's like the same crap we've heard. But Pauly's like, I need to go to sleep because I've got to be in this power veto competition tomorrow. I need to win this because I stepped up and volunteered to be a pawn this week. And he's like, you're the only one who didn't volunteer to go up. Oh my god. So they're freaking full on, like, yelling at each other until Pauly's like, oh, I don't know why you gotta be yelling. Like, I'm just gonna speak at this level and you do what you gotta do. And it was like super condescending. But Pauly was just like, he was saying, I don't want to argue about the same stuff over and over again. This is high school shit and I'm over it. So Zakiya is crying and she's just like, I didn't know that I was, like, the only one that didn't volunteer, and, like, if you wanted me to be the pawn, you should have just said that. And she's like, if you win HOH next week, I'll volunteer to go up. I feel like a loser because I don't contribute. Play the game! So then, it's really weird. This takes, like, a weird turn. He starts talking to her as if he is her coach, and he's, like, trying to pump her up just in case she's in this power veto competition, and it's just like, what are you doing? And you could see it on Zakiya's face. She's just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, she's trying to talk about their relationship, and he's just like, yeah, you do bad in a competition, you just gotta, like, shake it off and, like, go into the next one, and it's gonna be a different comp every time. So then eventually they talk for about an hour, a little under an hour, and eventually she's like, I'm never going to turn my back on you. I'll never let go. And then they hug, and then that's the end of that. So this morning, the have-nots begin. The have-nots this week are Corey, Zakiya, and Pauly. They got the lowest scores in the HOH competition, and Natalie is exempt because she got the care package with the never have-not pass. That was really well received by the rest of the house. Alright, so the bonus food this week is trail mix and marshmallows. That's freaking amazing. Sign me up. Okay, so then they had the Power Veto player draw. The host is Nicole, and the players, we've got Paul, Pauly, Bridget, and the 3 extra players, Natalie, Victor, and Corey. So, waiting for the competition. Pauly was chatting with Nicole and Corey in the Tokyo room. He's got some info for them. He's like, yeah, Day just came up to me and Paul, and she's really pushing for you to be the replacement, Nicole. You know, if one of us wins the Power Veto. And Nicole's just like, oh my god, Devon's evil. We have to get her. So then Pauly's like, yeah, Paul is 100p on board to take out Day. We're doing this. It's happening. So then Pauly starts telling them about his argument with Zakiya, and they're all just like, Zakiya is losing it. And then Nicole was saying, I used to be really close to Zakiya, but now she doesn't even want to talk game. She only talks about you and your relationship. And she's telling him, like, you better be careful because she really likes you, and if this stuff keeps happening, she might just, like, target you and try to get rid of you. I don't think he's worried about Zakiya winning competitions, but you never know. So they had the Power Veto competition pretty early today, like a lot earlier than they have been so far this season, and it looks like it was some sort of track and field theme, and Pauly won the competition. Alright, so after that, Natalie and James were in the Paris room, and this was kind of weird, because James was like, oh, something's up. Like, why does Pauly want to keep Bridget this week? Which I don't get why James was acting so surprised, because he knows about the plan to backdoor Day this week, and I don't know why he's acting this way with Natalie, because it was just the 2 of them in the room, but I don't know, it was weird. But he's talking about how Pauly is working everybody, and he feels like maybe Victor may have thrown this competition to Pauly. I don't know. But then he was like, you know, we're going to have to, like, backdoor him to get him out eventually. And I feel like this is one of the first times that I've heard anybody even mention Pauly getting evicted at some point, which is why I felt like I had to include it. But of course he was like, not yet, but when we do take him out, it's going to have to be backdoor. Alright, so the Power Veto ceremony is on Monday, and I think there's going to be a lot of scheming tomorrow, so it's going to be interesting to see who ends up going on the block, but let me know in the comments who you guys think the replacement nominee should be, or should Pauly leave the nominations the same? Let me know. And until tomorrow, much love.
Edit.